Welcome! Today I would like to discuss with you my game that I played against Alexander Krastev in round 4 of the German Bundesliga. In round 2 and 3 I played two relatively uneventful draws, so I will not cover these games. And in round 4 we were matched up against the team of Solingen. By that time we had 4-2 match points, and we also won our round 4 encounter against Solingen 2. So by now we have 6-2 match points, which looks very good for this season. I played, as I said, against Alexander Krastev, who is the European Youth Champion under 16, so a very young player. And of course, it's always interesting to play against these type of players who are like one generation behind you. And let's just look straight into the game. He opened the game with e4 and then went for the Vienna game. Slightly unusual on Master's Practice, I would say, but he plays this quite consistently. So this made it a little bit easier for me to prepare for him. So in general, my feeling was also that his repertoire is maybe not yet at the level than his practical understanding and gameplay is already. Yeah? So I think he's very, very strong practical player, most of all. d3, and I went for bishop to c5. Now here he went for the move f4. Of course, you can transpose back to the Italian game with knight to f3. Then after d6, we get the position that we have all played a lot of times when we were kids, which is, of course, an equal position. So after f4, I now did not play the move d6, but instead went for the move castles, inspired by a game between Krastev and Gawain Jones. And the point is, black delays d6 because in some lines you later on go immediately knight d4, c6, and then d5. And this is in particular the case if now white closes down the center by playing f5, then I can go for this knight d4, c6, d5 plan, and it's actually not so easy for white. So for that reason he followed the game against Jones by playing knight to f3, but here you can just take as black and now you go for d6. And black's plan is relatively easy. So black's idea is you do not want to allow white to castle comfortably to either of the two sides. Of course, it's not possible to castle kingside. And whenever he goes for something like d4, I will go for bishop b4 and then knight e4. And there's a lot of pressure here. So he cannot really castle kingside. So of course now the logical move is queen d2 to prepare castle queenside. But here black now already puts up some pressure, playing bishop e6, intending something like that again. So white is basically forced to go back. And now I go a5. And yeah, now you can already see that castling queenside feels a little bit risky for white. So my opponent followed a game that he had played against Jones and went for the move bishop to g5. h6, bishop to h4, and a knight to d4. So I had actually prepared exactly this position in the morning, but it still took me 20 or maybe even 30 minutes to reach it. So that was a little bit embarrassing and also, of course, bad in terms of time management, that I don't recall the lines that easily anymore. Well, he went for bishop f2. Takes, 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 and until here we're actually still in the game between Krastev and Jones, when Gawain Jones now played the move d5. Instead, I went for the move knight to h5, which I finally recalled was the first move of the computer, and the computer already gives a small advantage to black here. Yeah, and probably white objectively should not castle at this point. But anyway, my opponent did so. And here I missed the first chance for relatively clear advantage with playing the move b5. The point is he can't take because then I will collect the knight. And if he goes for something like a4, we will reach a sort of position as in the game, but where I'm still a few tempi up compared to what we will get in the game. So something like takes, takes, maybe knight f4, and black is comfortably better due to the weak white king. Instead, I went for the move queen to f6, which seems logical, taking control over the f4 square, but yeah, objectively is not the strongest move. Yeah, and in these positions, I was never completely sure if you can take on e6 at any point. I thought probably not, but what he did was probably also not great either. So he went for the move a4 now. When at some point we will get the structure with takes and c takes b. Question is a little bit, when should I take? Should I take now? Maybe I could do that, or should I wait? I saw no reason to hurry here, and I went for the move c6. Rook g1, and now he went for this queen to e3. Already kind of hitting the knight, preparing potentially knight to e2. And I went for rook fe8. Probably in this position I should have taken on b3 and go rook e8, when we would get something which is similar to the game. But I would not have given him the option of taking on e6, which at least computer says it's quite strong now. And during the game I was also not completely sure what happens after bishop e6. My plan was to take back and then to go for e5. And yeah, structurally this looks very, very nice for black. I mean, you go for something like that, and so on. But actually white is quite quick. So in such a position you can already try to exchange knights, and yeah, then maybe later you will be in time to create dynamic counterplay. Position could be around equal here. Instead, he went for knight e2, which I think is worse, and this gave me the opportunity of taking, and now just taking on b3. And after c takes b, my opponent offered a draw. Yeah, just looking at the kings, I saw no reason to even think about that, because my feeling was his king is much, much worse than mine, and I immediately played the move b5, which is the logical move to start an attack against his king. And here I felt very confident that the game is going my way. But he now started to play in a very, very strong fashion. So he played the move queen to d2. First strong move, improving the queen. If I leave the square f6, h6 is always hanging. On the other hand, it also hits a5, so it's kind of a double idea, and potentially wants to go queen c3 to exchange queens. So I think this was a very, very strong move. Played the logical ba, ba. And now I went for the move rook a, b8, hitting b2, so he can't take a5 because then he gets checkmated. And he protected the pawn b2 once more. Yeah, and here I went for king to h7. His idea is also to go rook g1 and then to just take on g7, so I have to do something against it. And I need to protect the h6 pawn, so I have to play king h7, and if he goes rook g1, I can just go g6, and h6 is protected. But now instead he went for a very, very tactical way of playing. Just snatching this pawn on a5. In my calculation, I had thought it's quite dangerous, but I probably would have also played it in his shoes. Yeah, but here I made a somewhat bigger calculation error. So I thought after rook a8 I'm clearly better, if not almost winning. But the objectively stronger move would have been rook e5, and then to just play for something like this with very strong compensation. A4 is hanging, and yeah, it's much easier to play this position for black, and objectively also black is better. Instead, I went for rook a8, hitting the a4 pawn, and I actually had calculated this, and I thought, okay, if he goes queen c3, then I'm not going to take, because, I mean, this, I thought this is probably just equal. I mean, maybe I have some ideas like this, but I think it's not enough, so I thought this is just equal. But I thought, okay, I will go rook e5, and what a smart move that is. Next move, I'm going to collect on a4, and then black is sort of winning. The point is I'm also threatening rook to c5. Yeah? So I thought, okay, he cannot parry rook c5 and rook a4 at the same time. I had calculated d4, which is basically the only move to do that. And then I thought I will just go rook ea5, brilliantly played, and I now just take on a4. But then he hit me with a very, very nasty surprise, namely the move queen to d3. I had even seen this queen to d3 when I played rook a8, but I thought I can give a check and then take on a4. However, the problem is he has this strange move, rook to d2, which I completely missed when I calculated the line. And after takes, he has rook to g4, trapping my queen on the open board. Amazing resource. The point is, if I go back, it's just e5 and it's curtains. So queen d3, complete shocker, and that took me some time to recover from that, because I now realized, okay, I'm not really winning a4. He will play b3 next move, and maybe I have some compensation, but it's definitely nowhere close to winning for me. Okay, play g6, b3, c5, and again, very calmly, he played the move rook to c2, which I think is another strong move, reinforcing his king's position. Rook b8, going for some counterplay on the b file. Played rook c3. And I went for rook to b4, attacking this pawn. And probably now he should have gone for the move rook to c4 objectively, when, according to the computer, white is still better. I mean, in any case, I think here now I have some counterplay. So it's not clean or anything that he's winning here. But what he did was objectively definitely worse, just taking on c5, and I took back. And here he went for the move queen to c2, hitting the c5 pawn, and potentially also creating room for the d1 rook. I used my last bits of thinking time here and couldn't find anything better than queen f4 check. There is an amazing resource here, which is the move c4. I think neither of us saw that move. When after takes, black can take just on a4, and this is very strange. Of course, if he takes, I can just take back and have good compensation. But what if he takes on a4? Well, I have queen g5 check, and he cannot lose this protection here, and this would actually be a perpetual. So I didn't see that resource with c4, but instead I went for queen to f4, which is also fine. And he played rook to d2. I mean, queen d2, I think, could lead to something sort of a perpetual, but he went for this move, rook to d2. And unfortunately, at this point, I had only increment left, and the same for him. And here I made now the decisive blunder of the game, and it's actually not super easy to see what the big difference between the two moves is. So I played the move rook to b7, which according to the computer is losing, whereas the move rook to a7, according to the computer, would have been almost winning. I mean, the idea of each of these moves is to bring a rook to the d file, make use of the pin. But the big disadvantage of rook to b7 is that I cannot swing this rook over, whereas I can, of course, swing this rook over. So, what would have happened after rook a7? Well, if he takes, I could just go rook d7. And this is a very annoying pin. I mean, so for instance, if he tries to play that, this takes, rook b3, and black is winning. I mean, after rook a7, I played around a little bit, and it's actually really, really hard to play this position for white. So I don't know what would have happened, but it's definitely the decisive point of the game. Where instead I went for this move rook to b7, and now I can't really swing this rook over, and I lose one active piece compared to the other line. He now played it quite nicely. He played the move queen to d3. Again, of course, I lose this option of playing rook to d4. And yeah, now I'm just lost because I have no way of dealing with the queen. I went for queen to b8, but I think the position is hopeless now anyway. He went for king c2. He stabilizes. It's also very easy to play for him now in time trouble. Queen a7, and he just went for the move rook c4, another strong move. I think he now really played it well, preventing any rook a4 shenanigans, and now he just is very, very stable, and I have very little counterplay. Played rook b4. I thought maybe, okay, I can use this trick, but now you can just take, and go for queen to d4. Yeah, I can't exchange queens because the rook ending is completely lost because I lose the b4 pawn. I played this. Yeah, maybe queen e7 is better, but in any case I'm lost. So I went for queen b6. Yeah, and now let's just see the remaining moves. But I mean, I'm a pawn down. He has a passed pawn. He has more active pieces, and it's basically just a lost position. And here he now decided to offer a trade of queens. And if I don't trade queen in any sort of fashion, he will at some point penetrate. So I can't really avoid that. But now I have a very passive rook on top of that. And of course the position is completely lost. I tried to fight on for a few moves, trying to get some counterplay with the h-pawn. But he now basically solved this issue with a precise calculation, seeing that in this position he can just go rook to d5, winning both pawns. And yeah, I tried. I thought maybe I have some counterplay like this, but actually not even that works, because he can just run here, and if I give checks, he can just collect this pawn. So I give another check. Tried for rook c3 to get this pawn, but he can just play rook d8. And now, of course, it's just completely lost. And he, quietly won the game. Now played rook h3, gave a few checks. I tried to protect the b pawn, but now he has this very strong move, rook to h5, which decides the game. If I go king c6, he can just go rook b5. And if I go rook c3, he has rook c5 check. In either case, just winning the game. So after rook h5, rook d2, rook e2, rook to h4, protecting this last pawn. And now he's also winning before I resigned. Well, this was somewhat of a bitter game for me, because I had the feeling after the opening I was just comfortably better without many chances of ever being in danger. Then I relied a little bit too much on my calculation with this rook a8 and this rook e5 line. And yeah, I didn't sense the danger at all. I should have taken on c3 and made a draw, but I didn't sense the danger, to be honest. And then, of course, the decisive point of the game was when I went for this rook to b7, which left me with this very stupid rook on a5, instead of going for rook to a7, leaving me with a very strong rook on b4, when objectively my position would have been at least clearly better, but yeah, still would have been complicated and time troubled, so I'm not saying it necessarily would have led to a win, but I think it would have been difficult for him for sure to play that. Yeah, that said, I think apart from some hiccups in the middle game, he played the middle game quite well overall. I think the opening, definitely he needs to improve, but he played the middle game overall quite well and also converted decently, I would say. So in that sense, my feeling is he's a very strong player, and of course I'm happy to see these top young German players coming up, and I wish him all the best for the future. Well, that's it from my side for this calendar year in terms of Bundesliga and Belgian League games. I hope you enjoyed it, and I wish you all nice holidays.